He wasn't their biological father. But for 10 years, he was all they had. Now their mother's back, and none of them are the children they used to be. Morning in the small town of Fairhope, Alabama, began with the familiar sound of an alarm clock and the scent of coffee from the old kitchen. Raymond Carter, 38 years old, a construction worker, had never been a perfect man, but he always tried, for his family, for the 5 children he loved with all his heart. Until one morning, like any other, he woke up and realized Vanessa was no longer there. No familiar footsteps in the kitchen. No warmth beside him in bed. Just a folded note left on the dining table, beside the ceramic coffee mug Vanessa always used. 7 scribbled words that slashed straight through his chest. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." She didn't just leave him. She left all 5 children. Malik was only 7, Jalen 5, Lonnie 2. Noah had just started walking, and little Zoe was still in diapers. No explanation. No goodbye hug. Just gone. Raymond stood frozen in the kitchen, now void of laughter. His eyes were locked on those words so intensely, he didn't hear the small footsteps coming down the stairs. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" Lonnie whispered, still hugging her old worn-out teddy bear. Raymond's throat closed up. How could he explain something he didn't even understand himself? He knelt down and held her tight, and lied. "Maybe Mommy just needs some time. She loves you, sweetie." But the days of waiting didn't turn into a miracle. They became weeks, then months, then years. From being a man with 2 jobs, Raymond had to give one up. Daycare costs were higher than his paycheck. He made dinners with whatever was left in the fridge, changed diapers in the middle of the night, replied to teachers' emails while his eyes still burned from lack of sleep. The house became crowded but lonely. And every morning, as he poured coffee into that chipped mug, Raymond no longer saw the shadow of his ex-wife. Only a man trying to hold together a family that had once shattered. But he didn't give up, because when he watched Noah and Zoe sleep peacefully in their cribs, when Lonnie beamed as he brushed her hair, when Malik quietly did the dishes after dinner without complaint, when Jalen skipped around the house because he found both socks that matched, those were the moments that reminded Raymond he was doing something right. The town of Fairhope never really slowed down for anyone, but for Raymond Carter, every day was a silent battle just to keep everything from falling apart. He gave up one of his jobs the day Vanessa left, simply because there was no one he could trust to watch his children, and because he couldn't trade Zoe's midnight cries for a few extra dollars in overtime pay. Every morning started at 5 a.m. In the small kitchen, Raymond fumbled with one hand to beat the eggs while using the other to keep Noah from toppling over. She was still sleepy, clinging to her daddy's leg. Burnt pancakes, moments when he poured salt instead of sugar into the batter. Those gradually became memories, not failures. At the construction site, he never complained. No one knew that during his lunch breaks, Raymond often crawled into his old pickup truck, pulled a curtain over the window, and exhaled in the silence. Sometimes he cried from exhaustion, from missing Vanessa, from feeling like he still wasn't good enough. But each evening, he returned home with a smile, because his kids didn't need a perfect father. They just needed one who wouldn't leave them. Dinner was sacred, even if it was instant noodles, baked potatoes, or dry roast chicken from the old oven. The 6 of them always gathered around the scratched-up wooden table. They'd tell stories from school, argue over the last dessert, then burst into laughter as if sadness had never found their door. Raymond used to think he couldn't be both father and mother at once. But when Noah ran to him, hugging his leg and calling him the best daddy in the world just because he tied her hair into a heart-shaped bun, he understood. Sometimes you don't need to know everything. You just need to not give up. And so, time kept passing. 10 years may not be long for most adults, but for Raymond, it was a lifetime of fatherhood. On the day Malik turned 17, Raymond suddenly realized he was no longer the clumsy man who'd once fumbled through putting diapers on baby Zoe. Malik had gradually become the second pillar of the family, a big brother and an unwilling adult all in one. Malik wasn't like other teenagers his age. While his friends played basketball and scrolled through social media, Malik knew how to fix the squeaky washing machine and wake his siblings every morning with his off-key but affectionate singing. No one had taught Malik how to do those things. He learned by watching his father, the man who was growing thinner by the day, but had never given up. One rainy Friday evening, the first storm of the season knocked out the power in their entire neighborhood. Raymond had just gotten off work, soaked to the bone, rushing home with a bag of bread and a can of beef stew. The house was pitch black. But instead of panicking, Malik had lit a few candles stuck into empty bean cans, setting up a simple dinner like it was a camping party. Candles and sandwiches. Not bad for a fancy evening, Malik joked, as Lonnie squealed with joy at roasting marshmallows over a lighter. Raymond sat down, toweling off his wet hair and glancing around the room. Every child was laughing. Zoe pretending a flashlight was her spaceship, Noah wearing a towel as a princess cape, Jalen playing zombie while foraging for food. "You did good," Raymond whispered to Malik. Malik shrugged, but the pride in his eyes was unmistakable. "I learned it from you, Dad." After dinner, once the kids had drifted off to sleep, Raymond and Malik sat on the porch, watching the rain tap against the tin roof. Malik asked, "Did you ever think about giving up?" Raymond fell silent. Then he answered softly, "Yeah, but every time I got close, someone would walk into the kitchen just as I was about to fall apart, grab the pan, and say, 'I got this part, Dad.'" Malik let out a soft chuckle, his shoulders relaxing after a long day. That night, even without lights, TV, or a working heater, the little house on Maple Grove Road glowed with something no one could buy: love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and the children who refused to give up on each other. Monday morning, after the storm, the skies over Fairhope blazed with sunshine, as if the rain had never come. Raymond left the construction site earlier than usual after receiving an unexpected call from the site office. He stepped into the makeshift wooden trailer with mud still clinging to his boots and his reflective vest still on. Mr. Brooks, the site supervisor, stood by a folding table, arms crossed, his expression more serious than usual. "Take a seat, Ray. This is important," he said, his voice deep but tinged with enthusiasm. Raymond sat, his hand unconsciously tightening around his hard hat. Mr. Brooks pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. "We've been watching you for a while. Steady. On time. You listen, you lead. The company wants you to be the project supervisor for the new Midtown site." Raymond froze. He stared at the envelope, already guessing what it held: a contract, a raise, full benefits, health insurance, and more importantly, a chance for Malik to go to college without debt, a chance to replace that old clunker that wheezed every morning, a chance at a life that wasn't just survival. But there'd be some adjustments, Brooks continued. Working Saturdays, a few nights on site, a flexible schedule, but not the kind you're used to. Raymond nodded slightly, his heart pounding. In his mind, he heard Zoe's giggle, Lonnie begging for one more bedtime story, Malik reminding his little sister to grab her raincoat. All of it echoed alongside the offer now in front of him. That night, he sat alone at the kitchen table, the envelope still in front of him. Malik walked in, holding a steaming bowl of instant noodles. "Still haven't decided?" Malik asked as he sat across from his father. Raymond sighed. "It's a good opportunity. But if I take it, you'll have to take on even more." Malik looked at him, his gaze both firm and understanding. "We're a team, Dad. I can handle it." Raymond smiled, but there was a shadow behind it. He knew, no matter how strong Malik was, he was still just a 17-year-old kid who hadn't had the chance to simply be a kid. On the table, the envelope remained sealed. 3 days after that conversation, a quiet, muggy afternoon settled over Fairhope. On the old wooden table near the window, buried under unopened bills and junk mail, sat a plain envelope with no return address. Raymond put down his soda can, wiped his hands, and picked it up. The slanted handwriting stopped his heart. To Raymond and the kids. He tore it open, eyes locked on the first line. "Ray, I'm sorry. I can't stay silent any longer. Vanessa, 10 years. No calls. No messages. Nothing. And now, with a few shaky lines, she said she had been wrong, that she'd gone through treatment, that she had awakened and wanted to come back. Just one chance. Just one chance to see the kids. Raymond read it 3 times, each word crashing over him like a wave. The letter ended with a trembling plea. If I don't deserve to be your wife, please let me try to be their mother. He sat frozen in the chair, the afternoon light streaming through the curtains, casting soft, ghostly stripes across the room. His mind emptied, except for the echo of a whisper from 10 years ago. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. That night, dinner was unusually quiet. Lonnie pushed her fork through her pasta. Jalen and Zoe played with their water cups, but didn't laugh. Malik watched his father, as if he already knew. Raymond laid the letter on the table. It's from your mom. She wants to see you. No one said a word. No crying. No outrage. Malik was the first to speak. Why now? After everything? Raymond shook his head slowly. I don't know, but I think you deserve to know the truth and to choose for yourselves. Lonnie stood up, her chair scraping softly against the floor, eyes glistening with tears. Does she remember the nights I cried from nightmares? Or the birthdays no one called my name? Jalen hesitated. If Mom comes back, will everything go back to the way it was? Raymond looked at his children, his voice gravelly. No, we can't go back. We can only move forward together or not at all. The whole house fell silent. After a moment, Zoe whispered, If I see Mommy, will she even recognize me? That innocent question clenched something deep in Raymond's chest. His hand tightened around the letter. That night, as Malik passed to the living room, he saw his father sitting alone under the dim lamp. The letter lay across Raymond's lap, his eyes lost in the void, as if facing himself. Do you forgive her, Dad? Malik asked bluntly. Raymond looked up at his son, then slowly shook his head. I don't know, Malik, but I do know this. An apology doesn't erase the past. It only opens a door to the present, and that door can't swing open from one side alone. 3 days after receiving Vanessa's letter, Raymond hired a private investigator named Marcus, a former cop who used to work in financial crimes in Alabama. He wasn't looking for revenge. He just wanted to protect the peace he and the kids had fought to preserve for over a decade. I don't need guesses, Raymond said. I need facts, clear and undeniable. 3 days later, Marcus returned with a thick folder and a heavy furrow in his brow. You want to sit down? In the warm kitchen, where family dinners were once filled with laughter, now there was only the sound of pages turning. Raymond read every line. A frozen credit card account, 2 civil lawsuits over unpaid debts, an eviction notice from a small apartment in Atlanta, issued just under 2 months before the letter arrived at his home. One detail punched through the noise. Vanessa had created a crowdfunding page titled, A New Beginning After Pain. In it, she wrote, I'm trying to return to my children, hoping they and their father will find it in their hearts to let me back in. Raymond's fists clenched. She wasn't just planning to come back. She was selling her return as a heart-wrenching story online, begging for sympathy from strangers. That evening, he gathered the kids. We need to talk, he said, placing the folder on the table. Malik picked it up, scanning quickly. His face hardened. She's coming back for money, not for us. Jalen asked slowly, So, Mom didn't mean it? Raymond nodded. She's going through hard times. But what worries me isn't the struggle, it's the dishonesty. Lonnie whispered. If she was really coming back out of love, she would have said something different. A long silence followed. Malik pushed the folder back. So what do we do now? Raymond looked at each of their faces, then said, We're not heartless people, but kindness has to come with clarity. I can't stop her from reaching out, but I can make sure none of us gets hurt like that again. That night, Malik received a notification from GoFundMe. Vanessa had updated her post. This time, it included photos of each of the children, taken from one of Raymond's old social media accounts. She's using our past to make money in the present, Malik said quietly. Raymond nodded. But we're the ones who hold the future. Jalen sat by the window, holding an old photo in his arms. If she never chose to stay, he asked, then was she ever really our mom? Raymond wrapped his arms around them. No matter why she came back, it doesn't change the truth. We held each other up. Family isn't about who was there in the beginning. It's about who chooses to stay when everything falls apart. Raymond no longer hesitated. On Monday morning, he pulled on a heavy coat and walked to the law office he had visited 3 years ago, right after finalizing legal custody of his 5 children. This time, he didn't walk in looking for advice. He came with everything ready. Does she have any rights? Raymond asked, calm but firm. The attorney nodded. Without a restraining order or visitation restriction, she could file for intervention. Then help me stop that, Raymond said. I want a protective order. No contact unless we agree to it. That evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Raymond shared the news. I've spoken to a lawyer, he said. She won't be allowed near unless we choose to let her. Malik nodded silently. Jalen looked visibly relieved. Lonnie smiled softly. But Zoe, the youngest, just 10, looked up and asked quietly, will Mommy be mad? Raymond bent down and hugged his son. Maybe, but I don't care about anyone's anger, he said gently. I only care if you kids are safe and happy. That night, long after the rest of the house had gone to sleep, Raymond remained in the living room, the soft yellow light casting a glow over the stack of legal papers on the table. He knew he'd done the right thing, but it didn't dull the ache in his chest. The woman he once loved was now the person he had to protect his children from. The next day, something unexpected happened. A local reporter knocked on Raymond's door. She introduced herself as part of Alabama news segment, Resilient Fathers, and explained that she had come across a story through a viral post online, Vanessa's GoFundMe campaign. We'd like to do a piece on your journey as a father. Raising 5 children alone for 10 years. It's incredibly inspiring. Raymond hesitated, but then he looked at his kids and thought about the other single dads out there, quietly fighting the same fight. I'll do it, he said, but not to complain. I just want people to know you can make it through if you choose not to give up. The interview took place right in their kitchen, between Zoe's crayon drawings on the wall and the old chair Jalen had broken during a wild evening of play. No stage, no performance, just the truth. When the segment aired, it spread quickly. People called Raymond a hero. He didn't like that. He was just a father who refused to quit. And somewhere far away, Vanessa watched that news clip. Maybe then she finally understood. The family she had walked away from had reshaped itself. Stronger, whole, and there was no room left for deception to return. Raymond shut the laptop and looked over at Malik, who was helping the younger ones with their math. We're okay, Dad, Malik said quietly, without needing to be asked. And Raymond knew. Finally, they were standing on solid ground. The rain fell gently over Saintsville that Sunday, as if echoing the years Raymond had carried in silence. He sat at the dining table, holding a worn folder in his hands. Beside him, 5 steaming mugs of hot cocoa sat ready. The kids came down the stairs one by one, still groggy, their eyes drawn instantly to the cream-colored envelope on the table marked, "Signed, Custodial Authority." I have something to tell you, Raymond began, his voice low and steady. This is something I've been quietly preparing for the past 3 years. And today, I think it's time I explain. He opened the folder, revealing a stack of documents, one for each child, legal adoption papers, with their names clearly printed on every page. I'm not your biological father. Raymond sat in silence for a long while before he finally spoke, as if he were digging up a memory he himself didn't want to face. I met your mother, Vanessa, at a time when both our lives were incomplete, he began. She was already a single mom and pregnant. We never got married, but I thought love would be enough. He paused, his eyes drifting toward the old photo on the wall, the only picture ever taken of the entire family, back when things still felt whole. Vanessa always felt like life was suffocating her. The pressure of a family, 5 kids, a man who had nothing but his bare hands. I think it just became too much. But what hurt the most was that she didn't just leave me. She left you, her own children. The room went quiet, as if someone had slammed the door on a memory no one was ready to face. The 5 children sat still, trying to grasp what was happening. Malik slowly looked up, stunned. Wait, what? I know this might be a shock, Raymond said, his voice steady but his eyes meeting each child's gaze, one by one. When your mom left, I wasn't the one who brought you into this world. But from that moment on, I made the decision to be the one who would never walk away from you. Lonnie whispered, her voice trembling. So, we're not really your kids? Raymond shook his head, his eyes glassy. No, sweetheart, but my love for you has never been pretend. I love you as if you were my own flesh and blood. He reached for the papers beside him and continued. That's why, for the past 3 years, I've been working with a lawyer, saving every penny, quietly completing every signature, every small court hearing, to make this official. Not because I fear what your mother might do someday, but because I knew your futures deserved something solid, something permanent. No conditions, no surprises. Malik spoke quietly, slowly. I don't need paperwork to know you're the only real family we've ever had. But thank you, Dad, for thinking that far ahead. A hush settled over the kitchen. Then Raymond looked at each child, one by one, as if he were engraving the image of their faces into his heart. I didn't bring you into this world. But on that morning, when your mother left that note on the table and disappeared, I knew I had 2 choices. I could turn my back, or I could stay. And I couldn't turn away. Not when there were kids crying, asking, "Where's Mom?" Not when Noah hadn't even learned to walk yet. Then why? Jalen's voice cracked. Why did you choose us, even though we're not your real kids? Raymond clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with the pain that had burned through him for years. Because love doesn't need shared blood. Because sometimes being a father is a choice, not fate. No one spoke for a long moment. Then suddenly, Malik stood up, walked over, and wrapped his arms tightly around Raymond. You didn't have to create us, he said, because you're the one who taught us what love means, how to be strong, how to never give up. Lonnie stepped forward, wrapping her arms around both of them. Jalen and the 2 younger ones followed. A moment without shared DNA, but full of heart. They had always been a family. And now, the law finally recognized it too. 3 days after that conversation, Vanessa left a handwritten note, tucked into the crack of the old wooden door on the porch. She didn't call. She didn't knock. Just a few lines, scrawled in once familiar handwriting. Raymond, I saw the adoption papers. I understand now. I used to think I could come back and fix things. But the truth is, I don't belong here anymore. Thank you for giving the kids a family. Something I failed to do. I won't come back. I won't disrupt their lives again. I only hope one day they'll find it in their hearts to forgive me. Vanessa. Raymond read the letter beneath the soft yellow glow of the living room light. He didn't say a word. He simply placed the letter down on the table, then walked over to the window, where Malik was washing the car, Jalen teaching the 2 youngest how to play tic-tac-toe. Life was moving forward, quietly and steadily, without anyone needing to return to complete it. A few weeks later, an old friend from Montgomery mentioned seeing Vanessa working at a small bakery. She was living simply, no more crowdfunding or desperate online posts. No one knew where she would go next or what her life would look like, but Raymond understood. For the first time, maybe she was truly starting over, alone. As for Raymond's family, life felt lighter, like someone had finally loosened a knot that had long been choking them. No more anxious glances. No more unanswered questions. Malik entered college application season with a letter of recommendation from his homeroom teacher and an essay titled The Quiet Hero, about the man who wasn't his biological father, but who had been the pillar of an entire world. Lonnie returned to dance class, without mentioning her mother for the first time. Jalen joined the soccer team, and the 2 youngest, Noah and Zoe, no longer flinched every time the doorbell rang. Raymond still kept the ceramic mug Vanessa used to drink from, not out of longing, but as a reminder. Everyone has a right to make mistakes and the right to start over, but no one has a right to return if all they bring is calculated deceit, not love. One evening, as the whole family was watching a movie on the old couch, Malik quietly asked, Dad, if Mom ever comes back again, what would you do? Raymond smiled, pulling all 5 kids into his arms. I won't have to do anything, he said, because my family is already whole. Summer in Fairhope passed slowly. On the front porch of the white-painted wooden house, Raymond sat reading the newspaper, while laughter echoed from the backyard. The golden light of dusk caught the salt and pepper in his hair, the hair of a man who once carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, never asking for applause or recognition. A friend had once asked him, "You gave up your youth for 5 kids who aren't even your blood. Don't you ever regret it?" Raymond had only smiled. "I don't see it as sacrifice," he said. "I just did what love wouldn't let me walk away from. Because real love doesn't need explanation. It lives in every meal served before it gets cold, in the hand that cools a fevered forehead at 2 a.m., in the steady gaze from the parents' section at school events, even when there's only one seat filled. Real love doesn't chase after late apologies. It's the thing that stays when everyone else has walked away. That night, after a simple dinner of roast chicken and cornbread, Malik, now nearly as tall as his father, stood beside Raymond and quietly said, "You know, when I was little, I used to wish I had a family like other kids. But now I get it. Family isn't who shows up for the photo. It's who steps into the gap when everyone else walks away." Raymond gave his son's shoulder a gentle squeeze, eyes misting over. "I couldn't choose your past," he said softly, "but I choose this. I'll never let you go." And in that small house on a quiet street, even without a mother, even without picture-perfect memories, love was there, every day, every hour, woven into the quietest acts. Because in the end, the greatest kind of love doesn't need to be said out loud. It just needs to stay.